the truth. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, hit that like button and drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this story travels. Now let's begin. The ballroom looked like someone had taken every cliché about wealth and polished it until it hurt to look at directly. Crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings too high to feel human. Servers in uniforms sharper than Ryan's only suit glided through clusters of people who wore their money like armor. Everywhere he turned, conversations hummed with the kind of confidence that came from never worrying about rent. Ryan Carter stood near a marble pillar, checking his watch for the third time in 5 minutes. He'd promised his daughter Mia he'd be home by 9. It was already 8:15 and he still hadn't found the client he was supposed to meet. Some investor his boss insisted could change the trajectory of the firm. Ryan doubted it. He doubted most things lately. The invitation had come through work, one of those networking events disguised as charity. The cause was something vague, children's literacy maybe, or arts education. Ryan couldn't remember. What he remembered was his boss leaning over his desk saying this wasn't optional. Show up, shake hands, smile. Don't embarrass us. So here he was, 32 years old, wearing a suit he'd bought on sale 4 years ago, trying not to look like he'd wandered into the wrong building. A woman in a silver gown passed him, laughing at something the man beside her said. Her jewelry probably cost more than Ryan's car. He shifted his weight, tugged at his collar. The room smelled like expensive perfume and something he couldn't name. Old money, maybe. Leather and wood polish and the faint trace of champagne that cost more per bottle than he made in a week. He thought about Mia, probably curled up on the couch with the babysitter right now, watching some cartoon he'd seen 100 times. He should have been there. He should have told his boss no, but he couldn't afford to lose this job, not with rent due in a week and Mia's school fees eating up everything else. So he smiled when he needed to, nodded at strangers, and counted the minutes until he could leave. That's when he saw her. She stood near the far side of the room, surrounded by people who leaned in when she spoke, laughed at her jokes, touched her arm like they were part of something exclusive. Elena Cross. Ryan recognized her from the name tag someone had dropped earlier and from the way people kept glancing in her direction. She was the kind of person magazines wrote profiles about, CEO of some tech company, 30 years old, beautiful in a way that seemed intentional, dark hair swept back, a black dress that fit like it had been designed specifically for her, diamond earrings catching the light every time she moved. She looked perfect. But Ryan had spent 2 years raising a 6-year-old on his own. He'd learned to read people the way Mia read picture books, slowly, carefully, looking for the things that didn't match the cover. And something about Elena Cross didn't match. She smiled at the man talking to her, nodded at the right moments, sipped champagne like she was enjoying herself. But her hand, the one not holding the glass, gripped the edge of a table so hard her knuckles had gone white. Ryan looked away. Not his business. He didn't know her. He didn't know anyone here. He checked his watch again. 8:20. If he left now, he could still make it home before Mia's bedtime. He started toward the exit, weaving through groups of people who didn't notice him. "Excuse me." The voice was quiet, controlled. Ryan turned. Elena Cross stood 2 feet away, close enough that he could see the tension in her jaw. The way her breathing didn't quite match the calm expression on her face. "Yes?" Ryan said. She glanced over her shoulder, quick, like she was checking to see if anyone was watching. Then she looked back at him, and for just a second, the mask slipped. Her eyes weren't confident or commanding, they were scared. "I need you to do something for me," she said. Ryan blinked. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" "No, but I saw you standing alone for the last 20 minutes, and you look like you don't want to be here either." He almost laughed. "That obvious?" "Only to someone paying attention." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I need you to walk with me, out of this room. Now. Please." Ryan frowned. "What's going on?" "I can't explain here." Her hand twitched toward his arm, stopped halfway. "Please, just trust me for 5 minutes." Every instinct told him to walk away. This was not his problem. He didn't know this woman, didn't owe her anything, and getting involved in whatever mess she was in would only complicate his life. But then she looked at him again, and he saw something that hit too close to home. Desperation. The kind that came from being trapped with no good options. He knew that look. He'd seen it in the mirror 2 years ago, standing in an apartment that still smelled like his ex-wife's perfume, holding divorce papers in one hand and a crying baby in the other. All right, Ryan said, 5 minutes. Relief flickered across her face. She turned and walked toward a side hallway, moving fast but not running. Ryan followed, feeling like an idiot. The hallway was quieter, lined with doors that probably led to conference rooms or private lounges. Elena didn't stop until they reached the end, where a door opened onto a narrow balcony overlooking the city. She stepped outside, gripping the railing. Ryan closed the door behind them. The sounds of the gala faded to a muffled hum. The air was cool, cutting through the stuffiness of the ballroom. "You gonna tell me what that was about?" Ryan asked. Elena exhaled slowly, staring out at the skyline. "My husband is in that room." Ryan waited. "He's watching me," she continued. "He always is. And if I'd stayed in there any longer, smiling at people I don't care about, saying things I don't mean, I was gonna lose it. So you grabbed a random stranger and dragged him out here." "You didn't look random." She turned to face him. "You looked like you understood." Ryan leaned against the railing, keeping some distance between them. "Understood what?" "What it's like to be somewhere you don't belong." He didn't have an answer for that. Elena looked down at her hands. The white-knuckle grip was gone, but her fingers still trembled. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have put you in this position. You probably think I'm insane." "I think you're scared," Ryan said. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's one word for it." "What's another?" She didn't answer right away. The city stretched out below them, thousands of lights flickering in the distance. Finally, she said, "Trapped." Ryan studied her. Up close, the perfection frayed at the edges. Her makeup was flawless, but the skin beneath her eyes looked bruised with exhaustion. The dress fit perfectly, but she stood like it weighed 100 pounds. "Trapped how?" he asked. Elena hesitated. Then, quietly, "Do you know what it's like to live in a house where someone else controls everything? Where you go, who you talk to, what you say in public. Where every choice you make has to be approved first, and if it's not, there are consequences." Ryan's chest tightened. "Yeah, I know what that's like." She looked at him, surprised. "Not the same way," he clarified. "But I've been in a relationship where I couldn't breathe without permission. It doesn't matter how much money you have. A cage is still a cage." Elena's expression softened. "You get it?" "I got out," Ryan said. "Took everything I had, but I got out." "How?" "I chose my kid over my pride," he shrugged. "Filed for divorce, fought for custody, moved into an apartment I could barely afford. Lost most of my friends. But my daughter was worth it." "You have a daughter?" "Mia. She's 6. Elena smiled, and for the first time that night, it looked genuine. "What's she like?" "Stubborn, curious, way smarter than I deserve." Ryan's voice softened. "She asks a million questions, likes mac and cheese more than anything else in the world, and thinks I'm the best dad alive even though I'm making it up as I go." "You sound like a good father." "I'm a tired father," Ryan said, "but I try." Elena turned back toward the city. "I don't have kids. My husband didn't want them. He said they'd complicate things." "Complicate what?" "The image." She said it like the word tasted bitter. "Everything is about the image, the company, the reputation, what people think when they see us together. He built this perfect life on paper, and I'm just part of the set design." Ryan didn't know what to say to that. "I used to think I loved him," Elena continued, "or maybe I loved the idea of him. He was older, successful, confident. I was 24 when we met, fresh out of business school, trying to prove I could build something. He saw potential in me, invested in my company, married me 2 years later." She paused, and then slowly, everything changed. Changed how? It started small. He'd suggest what I should wear to meetings, who I should hire, what strategies would reflect better on us as a couple. At first I thought he was helping, but then the suggestions became expectations, and the expectations became rules. Her voice dropped. "Now I can't make a decision without running it past him first. I can't go anywhere without telling him where I'll be. I can't talk to anyone he doesn't approve of. And if I do—" She trailed off. "If you do, what?" Ryan asked. Elena's hand moved to her wrist, rubbing it absently. "He reminds me who's in control." Ryan's jaw tightened. He'd seen this before, not personally, but in the news, in stories friends told, in the haunted looks people wore when they thought no one was watching. Does he hurt you? Not in ways that leave marks, Elena said quietly. Ryan felt anger coil in his chest, hot and sharp. You need to leave him. It's not that simple. It never is. But you still need to. Elena turned to face him fully. You don't understand. He's powerful, connected. If I leave, he'll destroy me. The company I built. He's on the board. The reputation I've spent years building. He controls the narrative. The people who work for me, they respect him more than they respect me. Her voice cracked. If I walk away, I lose everything. You'll lose more if you stay, Ryan said. She stared at him, eyes bright with unshed tears. You don't even know me. Why do you care? Because I've been where you are, Ryan said, and no one should have to live like that. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The city noise filled the silence, distant traffic, the hum of the building, the faint sound of music from the ballroom. Finally, Elena wiped her eyes, careful not to smudge her makeup. I should go back. He'll notice if I'm gone too long. What happens if he does? He'll ask where I was, who I was with, and I'll lie, because that's what I do. She straightened her dress, rebuilt the mask. Thank you for listening. I know that was a lot to dump on a stranger. I'm Ryan, he said. Ryan Carter. Elena. She managed a small smile. Though I guess you already knew that. Hard to miss. She started toward the door, then stopped. Ryan? Yeah? Can I ask you something? Go ahead. When you left your marriage, were you scared? Ryan thought about it. About the nights he'd lain awake wondering if he'd made the right choice, if he'd be able to take care of Mia on his own, if his ex-wife would find a way to take her back. About the mornings he'd woken up exhausted, barely holding it together, wondering how the hell he was going to make it through another day. Terrified, he admitted, every single day. But you did it anyway. Because staying would have been worse. Elena nodded slowly. I'll remember that. She opened the door and slipped back inside. Ryan stayed on the balcony a moment longer, staring out at the city and trying to shake the feeling that he'd just gotten involved in something he couldn't walk away from. Ryan didn't leave the gala for another hour. He told himself it was because he still hadn't found the investor he was supposed to meet, but that was a lie. He stayed because he kept looking for Elena in the crowd, making sure she was all right. She was back in her element, smiling and shaking hands, the perfect picture of composure. But now Ryan could see the cracks, the way her smile didn't reach her eyes, the way she tensed whenever a tall man in a gray suit appeared at her side. Her husband, Ryan assumed. The way she laughed at his jokes even though her jaw was tight. Ryan finally left at 9:30, texting the babysitter an apology. He drove home through streets that felt emptier than usual, replaying the conversation in his head. By the time he walked into his apartment, Mia was asleep on the couch, the babysitter scrolling on her phone nearby. She waited up as long as she could, the babysitter said, grabbing her jacket. Wanted to show you a drawing she made. Ryan handed her cash, thanked her, and locked the door behind her. Then he sat beside Mia, brushing hair out of her face. She stirred, mumbled something about tigers, and curled closer to him. He thought about Elena, about the fear in her eyes, about the choice she was too scared to make, and he wondered if he just met someone he couldn't help or if he'd walked into a mess that would pull him under. 3 days later, Ryan's phone buzzed during lunch. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Hello? Ryan, it's Elena. He nearly dropped his sandwich. How did you get my number? I asked someone at the firm you work for. I hope that's okay. It wasn't, but Ryan didn't say that. What's going on? I need to talk to you, in person. Her voice was tense. Can we meet? Elena, I don't think... Please, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Ryan closed his eyes, already regretting this. When? Tonight, 7 o'clock. There's a coffee shop on 5th and Brennan. Do you know it? Yeah. Thank you. She hung up before he could change his mind. Ryan sat there staring at his phone, wondering what the hell he'd just agreed to. The coffee shop was small, tucked between a bookstore and a dry cleaner. Ryan arrived 10 minutes early, ordered a black coffee he didn't want, and sat in the corner where he could see the door. Elena walked in at 7 on the dot. She wore jeans and a plain sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Without the gown and makeup, she looked younger, more real. She spotted Ryan, walked over, and sat down without ordering anything. "Thanks for coming," she said. "Not sure I had a choice." She almost smiled. "You always have a choice." "Do you?" The smile faded. "That's why I called." Ryan waited. Elena took a breath. "I've been thinking about what you said, about leaving, and I think I'm ready to try." Ryan's stomach dropped. "Elena, I know it's going to be hard. I know he's going to fight back. But I can't keep living like this. I can't keep pretending." She looked at him, eyes clear and determined. "I need help, and I think you're the only person who might actually understand." "I'm not a lawyer," Ryan said. "I'm not a therapist. I'm just a guy who barely has his own life together." "That's exactly why I trust you." Ryan shook his head. "You don't know me. I know you told the truth when I needed to hear it. I know you didn't judge me. I know you cared, even though you had no reason to." She leaned forward. "That's more than most people have given me in years." Ryan looked down at his coffee, trying to find the right words. "If you do this, it's going to get ugly. He's going to come after you, and anyone who helps you." "I know. I have a daughter to think about. I understand. I can't afford to lose my job. I can't afford to get dragged into a legal mess. I can't—" He stopped, exhaling hard. "I want to help you, but I don't know if I can." Elena nodded slowly. "I'm not asking you to fix my life. I'm just asking you to be someone I can talk to. Someone who won't lie to me or try to control me. Someone who'll tell me the truth, even if it's hard to hear." Ryan met her eyes. "That's all. That's all." He knew it wouldn't stay that simple. He knew the moment he said yes, he'd be stepping into something bigger than himself. But he also knew what it felt like to be trapped, to have no one who believed you, to fight alone. "All right," Ryan said. "I'll help. But we do this smart. No reckless moves. No burning bridges until we know you can survive the fall." Elena's shoulders sagged with relief. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Ryan said. "This is going to get worse before it gets better." She nodded. "I know." And somewhere, in a penthouse across the city, a man in a gray suit checked his wife's location on his phone and made a note of the coffee shop she'd been sitting in for the last 30 minutes. The meetings became a routine neither of them planned. Every few days, Elena would text, always from a different number, always careful. And they'd meet somewhere public but forgettable. A diner on the edge of town, a park bench near the river. Once, a library where the only other person was a teenager asleep over a calculus textbook. Ryan told himself he was just listening. That's all this was. She'd talk, he'd nod, offer advice when she asked for it. Nothing complicated, nothing that would spill into the rest of his life. But 3 weeks in, he started checking his phone more often. Started wondering if she was okay when he hadn't heard from her in a couple of days. Started lying to Mia's babysitter about where he was going when Elena asked to meet after work. He knew it was a mistake. He knew he was getting pulled deeper into something he couldn't control. But every time he thought about backing out, he'd remember the way Elena had looked at him on that balcony, like he was the first person in years who'd seen her as human instead of a trophy. So he kept showing up. Tonight, they sat in a booth at the back of a diner that smelled like grease and burnt coffee. Elena picked at a plate of fries she hadn't touched. Ryan nursed his third refill, watching her. "He's getting suspicious," Elena said finally. Ryan set his cup down. "About what?" "About me. About where I go. What I'm doing." She pushed a fry around her plate. "He asked me yesterday where I was Tuesday night." "What did you tell him?" "That I was working late, going over quarterly reports with the finance team." She looked up. "He didn't believe me." "How do you know?" "Because this morning he mentioned he'd called my office, spoke to my assistant, asked what time I left." Elena's voice was flat. "She told him I left at 6. I didn't get home until 9. Ryan's chest tightened. "What happened?" "Nothing. Yet." She met his eyes. "But he knows I lied, and now he's watching closer." "Elena, maybe we should—" "Don't say we should stop meeting." Her voice sharpened. "Please. You're the only thing keeping me sane right now." Ryan rubbed his face. He was exhausted. Mia had been up half the night with a nightmare, and he'd spent the morning scrambling to finish a presentation his boss needed by noon. The last thing he needed was to get tangled up in someone else's marriage. But here he was. "We need to be smarter about this," Ryan said. If he's tracking you, we can't keep meeting in person. Then how? I don't know. Email, burner phones, something he can't trace. Elena shook her head. He has access to everything. My email, my phone records, even my credit card statements. If I buy a burner phone, he'll know. Then use cash. He monitors my cash withdrawals too. Ryan stared at her. Are you serious? He calls it financial transparency. She said it like she was quoting him. Says it's important for couples to be open about money. That's not transparency. That's surveillance. I know. Elena's voice cracked. I know what it is. But knowing doesn't change anything. I'm still trapped. Ryan leaned back, trying to think. This was worse than he'd realized. Way worse. If her husband was this controlling, this meticulous, then getting Elena out wasn't just about filing divorce papers. It was about outsmarting someone who'd built a prison so carefully she didn't even realize how locked in she was. What about your company? Ryan asked. You're the CEO. Don't you have resources? People who work for you? My husband sits on the board. Half the executive team reports to him more than they report to me. She laughed bitterly. He funded the company when it was just an idea. Now everyone sees him as the reason it's successful. If I try to push him out, they'll side with him. Then we find someone who won't. Like who? Ryan didn't have an answer. Elena looked down at her hands. I've been thinking about lawyers, divorce attorneys. But every firm I research, every name that comes up, he either knows them or has worked with them. And the ones he doesn't know, she trailed off. What? I'm scared they'll tell him I'm asking. Ryan understood. In a city like this, where money talked and reputation mattered, confidentiality was just a word on a contract. People gossiped. People took sides. And if Elena's husband was as connected as she said, finding a lawyer who wouldn't tip him off would be nearly impossible. You need someone outside his circle, Ryan said. Someone who doesn't owe him anything. Do you know anyone like that? Ryan thought about it. He didn't exactly run in legal circles. Most of the lawyers he'd dealt with were public defenders or family court attorneys who handled his custody case. But there was one name that came to mind, a woman his coworker had mentioned once, someone who'd taken on a case no one else would touch and won. Maybe, Ryan said. Let me make some calls. Elena's expression softened. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I don't even know if she'll take your case. It's more than I had yesterday. Ryan glanced at the clock on the wall. It was almost 9. He needed to get home. Mia would be asleep by now, but he didn't like being gone this long. I should go, he said, pulling out his wallet. Elena reached across the table, stopping him. Ryan, wait. He looked at her. Why are you doing this? She asked. You barely know me. You have your own life, your own problems. Why risk any of this to help me? Ryan thought about how to answer. He could tell her it was because he'd been in a bad situation once and someone had helped him. He could say it was the right thing to do, but neither of those felt like the whole truth. Because I don't think anyone should have to live scared, he said finally, and because if I don't help you, no one else will. Elena's eyes glistened. She squeezed his hand once, quick, then let go. I won't forget this. Ryan stood, dropping cash on the table. Just stay safe, don't do anything reckless. I'll try. He left her sitting there, staring at her untouched fries, and walked out into the cold night. The drive home took 20 minutes. Ryan spent most of it replaying the conversation, trying to figure out how deep he was willing to go with this. He'd already crossed lines he shouldn't have. Meeting a married woman in secret. Helping her plan an escape from her husband. If anyone found out, if his boss heard about it, if Elena's husband discovered his name, Ryan's life would implode. But he couldn't stop. Not now. When he got home, the babysitter was awake, watching some reality show on low volume. She looked up when he walked in. Mia okay? Ryan asked. Out like a light. She asked where you were, though. What did you tell her? That you had a work thing. The babysitter grabbed her bag. She wanted to wait up, but I told her you'd be home soon. Ryan handed her money, thanked her, and locked the door behind her. Then he walked into Mia's room and stood in the doorway, watching her sleep. She looked so small under the blankets, clutching the stuffed giraffe she'd had since she was 2. Her hair was a mess, her mouth slightly open. She had no idea how close to the edge her dad was living, no idea that every choice he made right now could change everything. Ryan sat on the edge of her bed, careful not to wake her. He brushed hair off her forehead, the way he did every night, and whispered, "I'm sorry, kiddo. I'm trying to do the right thing." Mia stirred, mumbled something about tigers again, and rolled over. Ryan stayed there a few more minutes, then stood and walked to the kitchen. He poured himself a glass of water he didn't drink and stared at his phone. He needed to call that lawyer. He needed to figure out how to help Elena without dragging himself and Mia into the wreckage. But as he stood there in the dim kitchen light, he couldn't shake the feeling that it was already too late. The lawyer's name was Rebecca Hale, and she worked out of a small office above a bagel shop on the east side of the city. Ryan's coworker had described her as tough as hell and doesn't take crap from anyone, which sounded exactly like what Elena needed. Ryan called the next morning during his lunch break. A receptionist answered, asked what his case was about, and put him on hold for 5 minutes. When she came back, she said Ms. Hale could meet him that afternoon at 3. Ryan skipped out of work early, told his boss he had a dentist appointment, and drove across town. Rebecca Hale's office was exactly what he expected, cramped, cluttered with case files, and smelling faintly of coffee that had been sitting too long. Rebecca herself was in her mid-40s, gray-streaked hair pulled into a bun, glasses perched on her nose. She looked tired, but her eyes were sharp. "Mr. Carter," she said, gesturing to a chair. "You said this was about a friend." Ryan sat. "Yeah, she's married, wants a divorce, but her husband is controlling, connected. She's scared he'll destroy her if she tries to leave." Rebecca leaned back, studying him. "Is your friend sitting in a jail cell right now?" "No." "Hospital?" "No." "Then she's already ahead of most of the cases I take." Rebecca picked up a pen, tapped it against her desk. "Tell me more." Ryan explained everything Elena had told him. The surveillance, the financial control, the way her husband monitored every move she made, the board seat he held in her company, the reputation he'd built that made challenging him nearly impossible. Rebecca listened without interrupting. When Ryan finished, she set the pen down. "Your friend is in what we call a coercive control situation," Rebecca said. "It's psychological abuse, hard to prove in court, but not impossible. The bigger problem is the power imbalance. If her husband has the resources you're describing, he'll fight dirty." "Can you help her?" "Maybe, but I need to meet her first. Hear her story in her own words. See if she's ready to commit to this." "She's ready." "You sure about that?" Ryan hesitated. "I think so." Rebecca gave him a look that said she'd heard that before. "Here's the thing, Mr. Carter. Cases like this don't end cleanly. Her husband will drag her through hell. He'll leak information, manipulate narratives, turn people against her. If she's not prepared for that, if she's not willing to lose everything temporarily to get free, then she's not ready." "She doesn't have a choice." "Everyone has a choice. The question is whether she'll make it." Rebecca pulled out a business card, handed it to Ryan. "Have her call me, directly, not through you." "Why?" "Because if this goes to court, I need to know she's making her own decisions, not following yours." Ryan took the card. "Fair enough." "One more thing." Rebecca's expression hardened. "You said you're her friend. How close?" "Close enough to want to help." "That's not what I asked." Ryan frowned. "We've met a few times, talked. That's it." "Keep it that way. If her husband finds out she's been meeting another man, especially someone helping her leave, he'll use it against her. Infidelity accusations, character assassination, all of it. You'll become a weapon in his hands." Ryan's stomach turned. "I hadn't thought about that." "You should, because the second she files for divorce, he'll start looking for ammunition. And if he finds you, both of your lives get a lot harder." Ryan nodded slowly. "I'll be careful." "Good." Rebecca stood. "Tell your friend to call me. And Mr. Carter, whatever you're doing to help her, make sure it's worth the risk, because once this starts, there's no going back." Ryan left the office feeling like he'd just been handed a loaded gun and told to be careful where he pointed it. So, Elena called Rebecca Hale 2 days later. They met privately, and when Elena texted Ryan afterward, all she said was, "She's good. Scary, but good." Ryan didn't hear from her for a week after that. He told himself it was better this way. Let the lawyer handle it, stay out of the mess. But the silence gnawed at him. When Elena finally called, her voice was shaky. "Can we meet?" "When?" "Now, please." Ryan checked the time. It was almost 8. Mia was already in bed and the babysitter was reading on the couch. Where? The park. Near the playground. 20 minutes later, Ryan found Elena sitting on a bench under a streetlight. She looked wrecked, hair tangled, eyes red, hands shaking. Ryan sat beside her. What happened? He found out. Her voice cracked. I don't know how, but he knows I met with a lawyer. Ryan's blood went cold. What did he say? He didn't say anything. He just looked at me, like he knew exactly what I was planning. And then he told me we were having dinner with his business partner tomorrow night, that I needed to wear the blue dress, that I needed to smile and be charming. She turned to Ryan, tears streaming down her face. He's testing me, seeing if I'll fall in line. Did you tell Rebecca? Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first. Ryan took a breath. Okay. Here's what you do. You go to that dinner, you wear the blue dress, you smile, you play the part, and then the second you can, you call Rebecca and tell her everything. What if he does something? Like what? I don't know. Hurt me. Lock me in. I don't know what he's capable of anymore. Ryan looked at her, this woman who'd had everything on paper and nothing where it counted. He wanted to tell her it would be okay, that she'd get through this. But he didn't believe in empty promises. If you think you're in danger, don't go home, Ryan said. Go to a hotel, call Rebecca, file for an emergency restraining order. And then what? He'll find me. He always finds me. Then you stop running. You stand your ground. You fight back. Elena wiped her eyes. I'm not strong enough. You're stronger than you think. Ryan's voice was firm. You've survived this long. You've reached out for help. You've made it this far. That's not weakness, Elena. That's strength. She looked at him, searching his face for something, reassurance maybe, or proof that he meant it. I'm scared, she whispered. I know, but you don't have to do this alone. Elena leaned against him just for a second, then pulled away. I should go. He'll notice if I'm gone too long. Ryan watched her walk to her car, hands stuffed in her pockets, shoulders hunched. She looked small, fragile, like one wrong move would shatter her completely. He sat on that bench long after she left, staring at the empty playground, and wondered how much longer he could keep pretending this wasn't going to blow up in all their faces. The explosion came faster than he expected. 2 days later, Ryan was at his desk when his boss called him into her office. She didn't look happy. Shut the door, she said. Ryan did. What's going on? I got a call this morning from a man named Marcus Cross. Said he's a major investor in one of our clients' companies. She folded her arms. He asked about you. Ryan's heart dropped. Asked what? Whether you worked here, what your role was, whether you'd been meeting with his wife. Ryan felt the floor tilt. What did you tell him? I told him I couldn't discuss employee matters. She leaned forward. Now you're going to tell me what the hell is going on. Ryan's mind raced. He could lie, say he didn't know Elena, that Marcus Cross had the wrong person, but his boss wasn't stupid and lying would only make it worse. I met his wife at a networking event, Ryan said carefully. She asked for advice. I gave it, that's all. Advice about what? Personal stuff, her marriage. His boss's expression darkened. Ryan, please tell me you're not involved in someone's divorce. I'm not involved. I just listened. That's involvement. She stood pacing. Do you have any idea how bad this looks? A junior analyst meeting secretly with a CEO's wife while her husband is calling around trying to figure out what's happening. I didn't know he'd call here. Well, he did. And now I have to decide whether this is a PR nightmare waiting to happen or just a stupid mistake you made. She stopped, looked at him. Are you sleeping with her? No. Are you planning to? No. Then what the hell are you doing? Ryan didn't have a good answer. Helping a friend? His boss laughed, but there was no humor in it. Friends don't get their coworkers fired, Ryan. Friends don't put their company at risk. Friends don't drag innocent people into their messy personal lives. She sat back down. I like you. You're good at your job. But if Marcus Cross pushes this, if he makes this public, I can't protect you. I understand. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you just threw your career away for someone you barely know. Ryan stood. Is there anything else? His boss sighed. Stay away from her. Whatever you think you're doing, it's not worth it. Ryan left her office, walked back to his desk, and sat there staring at his computer screen. He couldn't focus, couldn't think. All he could hear was his boss's voice saying, "You just threw your career away." His phone buzzed. Text from Elena. "He knows about you. I'm sorry." Ryan typed back, "I know. We need to talk." "Not tonight. He's watching me." "When?" "I'll figure it out." Ryan set his phone down and rubbed his face. This was spiraling, fast, and he had no idea how to stop it. That night, Ryan sat at his kitchen table after Mia went to bed, staring at a glass of whiskey he'd poured and hadn't touched. His phone sat in front of him, silent. He thought about his boss's warning, about Marcus Cross calling around, digging for information, about the way Elena had looked on that bench, terrified and small. He thought about Mia, asleep down the hall, oblivious to the fact that her dad might have just destroyed their stability for someone else's problem. And he thought about the choice he'd made weeks ago, standing on a balcony, listening to a stranger ask for help. He picked up his phone and called Elena. It rang 4 times before she answered. "Hello?" Her voice was quiet, careful. "It's me," Ryan said. "Are you safe?" "Define safe." "Can you talk?" For a minute. "He's in the shower." Ryan took a breath. "We can't keep doing this. Meeting in secret, pretending he doesn't know. It's making things worse." "I know." "Then what do we do?" Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I file. Tomorrow. Rebecca said she's ready." Ryan's chest tightened. "Are you sure?" "No, but I don't have a choice anymore." Her voice steadied. "He's going to destroy me either way. At least this way, I'm fighting back." "What do you need from me?" "Nothing. You've already done enough." "Elena, I mean it, Ryan. You have a daughter, a job, a life. I can't ask you to risk any more for me." "You're not asking. I'm offering." "Then my answer is no." Her voice softened. "Thank you for everything. But from here on out, I handle this alone." Before Ryan could respond, the line went dead. He sat there, holding the phone, feeling like he'd just been cut loose from something he wasn't ready to let go of. But Elena was right. This was her fight, and if he kept pushing, he'd only make it worse. So he drank the whiskey, turned off the lights, and went to bed, and tried not to think about what would happen when Marcus Cross realized his wife was serious about leaving. Ryan woke up the next morning to 17 missed calls and a text from a number he didn't recognize. "Check the news." He fumbled for his phone, heart already racing, and pulled up the local news site. The headline hit him like a fist to the chest. Tech CEO, Elena Cross files for divorce. Husband alleges affair. Ryan's hands went numb. He scrolled through the article, skimming words that didn't feel real. Marcus Cross had released a statement within hours of Elena filing the paperwork. He claimed his wife had been unfaithful, that she'd been meeting a man in secret for weeks, that he had documentation proving the relationship. And at the bottom of the article, buried in the 3rd paragraph, was Ryan's name. Sources close to Marcus Cross have identified Ryan Carter, a financial analyst at Brennan & Associates, as the man allegedly involved with Mrs. Cross. Mr. Carter could not be reached for comment. Ryan sat on the edge of his bed, staring at his phone, trying to process what he was reading. This wasn't just a story. This was a bomb Marcus had dropped deliberately, publicly, to destroy Elena before she could even start fighting back. And Ryan was collateral damage. His phone rang. His boss. He didn't answer. It rang again. Unknown number. He let it go to voicemail. By the time he got Mia ready for school, there were 3 voicemails from reporters asking for a statement. One from his boss telling him not to come into the office, and one from Rebecca Hale, clipped and professional, saying they needed to talk immediately. Ryan dropped Mia off at school, forcing a smile when she asked why he looked worried. "Just work stuff, kiddo. Nothing you need to worry about." She hugged him tight before running toward the building. "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too." He waited until she disappeared inside, then drove to Rebecca's office. When he walked in, Rebecca was already on the phone, pacing. She gestured for him to sit. Ryan did, feeling like he was walking into an interrogation. Rebecca hung up and turned to face him. "Tell me you didn't sleep with her." "I didn't." "Tell me you didn't do anything that could look like you slept with her." "We met a few times. Talked. That's it." Rebecca sat down, rubbing her temples. That's it. You realize how that sounds, right? Married woman meets single man multiple times in secret. Husband finds out. Wife files for divorce. That's the narrative Marcus is building, and it doesn't matter if it's true. It only matters if people believe it. So what do we do? We. Rebecca's eyes sharpened. You're not my client, Mr. Carter. Elena is. And right now, her case just got 10 times harder because of you. Ryan felt anger flare in his chest. I didn't ask for this. Neither did she. But here we are. Rebecca leaned back. Marcus is smart. He went public immediately, framed Elena as the villain, and made himself the victim. Now every article, every social media post, every conversation about this divorce will center on whether she cheated, not on the years of control and abuse, not on the surveillance or the manipulation, just whether she's a liar and a cheat. That's not fair. Fair doesn't matter. Perception does. Rebecca pulled out a legal pad, started writing. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get dragged through the mud. Your name, your job, your personal life. It's all fair game now. Reporters will dig into your history, your ex-wife, your custody battle, every mistake you've ever made. They'll twist it into a narrative that makes you look like a homewrecker. Ryan's stomach turned. What about Elena? She's in worse shape. Marcus is already filing counter-motions. He's claiming emotional distress, reputational damage, and breach of marital trust. He's also pushing to freeze her access to company assets, saying she's a liability. If he succeeds, she'll be locked out of the business she built. Can he do that? If the board sides with him, yes. And based on what Elena told me, most of them will. Ryan stood, pacing. This is insane. He's the one who controlled her. He's the one who made her life hell. And now he's the victim? That's how abusers work. They rewrite the story so they're always the hero. Rebecca's voice softened slightly. I've seen this before. Men like Marcus don't lose quietly. They burn everything down and make sure everyone else goes down with them. Ryan stopped pacing. So what do we do? You stay quiet. No statements, no interviews, no social media posts. Anything you say will be used against Elena. And her? She fights? We document everything, every email, every text, every instance of control. We build a case that shows the real story, but it's going to take time, and it's going to get ugly. Ryan sat back down, feeling the weight of it all pressing on his chest. I never wanted this. I know, but you're in it now. Rebecca met his eyes. The question is whether you can handle what comes next. Ryan didn't have an answer. He left Rebecca's office and drove home in a daze. His phone kept buzzing, texts from coworkers, calls from numbers he didn't recognize, notifications from social media he hadn't opened in months. He turned the phone off and sat in his car outside his apartment, trying to figure out what the hell he was supposed to do now. When he finally went inside, the babysitter was waiting. She looked uncomfortable. Mr. Carter, there were some people here earlier, reporters, I think. They knocked on the door, asked if you were home. I didn't let them in, but they said they'd come back. Ryan's jaw tightened. Thanks for not opening the door. Is everything okay? It will be. He didn't believe it, but he said it anyway. After the babysitter left, Ryan sat on the couch and turned his phone back on. There were 43 new notifications. He ignored most of them, but one message stood out. From Elena. I'm so sorry. I never wanted this to happen to you. Ryan stared at the screen, then typed back. Not your fault. Are you okay? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. No, but I'm still fighting. Ryan wanted to say more. Wanted to tell her he wasn't backing down either, that he'd stand by her no matter what. But Rebecca's words echoed in his head. Anything you say will be used against her. So he just typed, stay strong, and left it at that. The next few days were a blur of chaos Ryan wasn't prepared for. His boss called and told him he was being placed on administrative leave pending an internal review. The firm didn't fire him outright. They were too careful for that. But the message was clear. He was a liability now, and they wanted distance. Ryan tried to keep things normal for Mia. He took her to school, helped with homework, made her favorite dinners. But she wasn't stupid. She noticed the way he checked his phone constantly, the way he tensed every time a car pulled up outside, the way he didn't laugh at her jokes like he usually did. Daddy, are you mad at me? She asked one night during dinner. Ryan looked up, startled. What? No, sweetheart. Why would you think that? Because you're sad all the time now. Ryan's chest ached. He reached across the table, took her small hand in his. I'm not sad because of you. I'm just dealing with some grown-up stuff. But it's nothing you need to worry about, okay? Is it because of work? Sort of. Mia frowned, the way she did when she was trying to solve a puzzle. Did you get fired? Not fired, just taking a break. Oh. She seemed to accept that, then went back to her mac and cheese. But Ryan could see the worry in her eyes, and it killed him. That night, after Mia went to bed, Ryan sat in the dark living room and opened his laptop. He'd been avoiding the internet, but he couldn't anymore. He needed to see what people were saying. It was worse than he expected. Social media was flooded with opinions. Some people defended Elena, saying Marcus was clearly controlling and manipulative. But most sided with Marcus. They called Elena a cheater, a liar, a woman who'd thrown away a good marriage for some nobody. And Ryan was labeled a homewrecker, an opportunist, a deadbeat dad who should be ashamed of himself. Someone had dug up his divorce records, posted details about his custody battle, twisted the facts to make it sound like he'd abandoned his ex-wife and fought dirty to take Mia away from her. Another person found his LinkedIn, screenshotted his job title, and mocked him for thinking he could land a CEO. The comments spiraled from there. Speculation, rumors, outright lies. Ryan closed the laptop before he could read more, but the damage was done. He felt sick. His phone buzzed, text from a number he didn't recognize. You ruined a good man's marriage. Hope it was worth it. Ryan blocked the number. Another text came through from a different one. Stay away from other people's wives, scumbag. He blocked that one too. But they kept coming. By the end of the week, Ryan had blocked over 30 numbers. He'd deleted his social media accounts. He'd stopped answering his phone unless it was a number he recognized. And he still felt like he was drowning. Rebecca called him on Friday. We need to meet. Elena's case is moving faster than I expected. They met at a coffee shop across town, far from anywhere Ryan usually went. Rebecca looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Marcus filed a motion to depose you, she said without preamble. Ryan's stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means you'll have to give a sworn statement about your relationship with Elena. Marcus's lawyer will ask questions, and you'll have to answer truthfully. If you lie, it's perjury. I've got nothing to hide. We didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't matter. They'll twist your words, make it sound like more than it was. Rebecca pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. These are the questions they'll probably ask. I need you to go through them and think carefully about your answers. Ryan opened the folder. The questions were invasive, personal, designed to paint him as guilty no matter how he answered. Did you and Elena Cross ever meet alone? Did you ever touch her? Did you ever express romantic feelings? Did you ever encourage her to leave her husband? Ryan looked up. These are traps. Of course they are. That's the point. Rebecca leaned forward. Listen to me. You have to be precise. No exaggerations, no defensiveness, no emotion, just facts. Short answers. Yes or no when possible. And if they ask why I helped her, you tell the truth. She asked for advice. You gave it. That's all. Ryan shook his head. That's not all. I cared about her. I wanted her to be safe. Then don't say that. Because caring about her, wanting her to be safe, that sounds like a man with feelings. And feelings are exactly what Marcus wants to prove. Ryan leaned back, frustrated. So I'm supposed to pretend I didn't give a damn? You're supposed to give them nothing they can use. Because this isn't about the truth, Ryan. It's about winning. Ryan left the meeting feeling worse than when he'd arrived. He drove home, picked up Mia from a friend's house, and tried to act like everything was fine. But that night, after she fell asleep, he sat on the couch and let himself fall apart. He thought about the last few weeks, about the choices he'd made, the risks he'd taken, the naive belief that helping someone in trouble wouldn't cost him everything. He thought about Elena, wherever she was right now, probably going through the same thing, probably worse. And he thought about Mia, asleep in her room, oblivious to the fact that her father's life was unraveling because he'd tried to do the right thing. Ryan didn't cry. He was too tired for that. He just sat there in the dark, holding his head in his hands, and wondered how much more he could take. His phone buzzed. Text from Elena. I heard about the deposition. I'm sorry. Ryan typed back, not your fault. It feels like it is. Ryan hesitated, then wrote, "Are you okay?" "Honestly? No. He froze my bank accounts. I'm staying with a friend. My board is meeting next week to discuss removing me." Ryan's chest tightened. "Can Rebecca stop that?" "She's trying, but Marcus has more influence than I thought." Ryan didn't know what to say. Everything he wanted to say, that he'd stand by her, that she wasn't alone, that they'd get through this, felt useless. So he just wrote, "Keep fighting." "You too." The deposition was scheduled for the following Tuesday. Ryan spent the weekend preparing, going over Rebecca's notes, practicing his answers until they sounded robotic. He couldn't afford to slip up. One wrong word, one moment of emotion, and Marcus would have everything he needed. Monday night, Ryan lay awake staring at the ceiling, running through the questions in his head. He barely slept. Tuesday morning, he dropped Mia off at school early and drove to the law office where the deposition would take place. Rebecca met him outside, looking grim. "Remember," she said, "short answers, no elaboration, stay calm." Ryan nodded. His hands were shaking. Inside, the room was sterile and cold. A long table, a court reporter, Marcus's lawyer, a sharp-looking woman in an expensive suit, and sitting in the corner, Marcus Cross himself. Ryan hadn't seen him in person before. Marcus was mid-40s, tall, graying at the temples, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Ryan's car. He looked calm, composed, like this was just another business meeting. Ryan wanted to punch him. The deposition started. Marcus's lawyer introduced herself, went through the formalities, then launched into the questions. "Mr. Carter, how did you meet Elena Cross?" "At a charity event." "And what was the nature of your initial interaction?" "She asked me to step outside with her. She needed to talk." "About what?" "Her marriage." "Did she indicate that she was unhappy?" "Yes." "Did you offer to help her?" "I listened, that's all." The lawyer paused, flipping through her notes. "Mr. Carter, after that initial meeting, how many times did you see Mrs. Cross?" Ryan hesitated. Rebecca had warned him about this. "I don't have an exact number." "An estimate, then?" "Maybe 10 times." "Over what period?" "A few weeks." "And these meetings, where did they take place?" Ryan listed the locations: coffee shops, parks, the diner, each one sounding more damning than the last. "Did you ever meet in private residences?" "No." "Did you ever meet in hotel rooms?" "No." "Did you ever engage in physical contact with Mrs. Cross?" Ryan's jaw tightened. "No." "Not even a hug? A hand on the shoulder?" "No." The lawyer leaned forward. "Mr. Carter, did you encourage Mrs. Cross to leave her husband?" Ryan looked at Rebecca. She gave a small nod. "I told her she deserved to be safe," Ryan said carefully. "That's all." "Did you tell her you cared about her?" Ryan hesitated. This was the trap. If he said yes, it sounded romantic. If he said no, it sounded like he was lying. "I told her I wanted her to be okay," Ryan said. "The same way I'd want anyone in a bad situation to be okay." "Did you have romantic feelings for Mrs. Cross?" Ryan met the lawyer's eyes. "No." "Did Mrs. Cross ever express romantic feelings for you?" "No." "Then why did she keep meeting with you?" "Because I listened, because I didn't judge her, because she had no one else to talk to." The lawyer smiled, like she'd just gotten exactly what she wanted. "So you became her confidant, her support system, the person she turned to instead of her husband." "Her husband was the problem." "Allegedly." Ryan's hands curled into fists under the table. Rebecca touched his arm, a silent warning. The questions continued for another hour, each one designed to chip away at Ryan's credibility, to make him look guilty, to paint Elena as a cheater and Ryan as the man who'd helped her do it. By the time it ended, Ryan felt like he'd been taken apart and put back together wrong. Marcus's lawyer stood, shook hands with Rebecca, and left. Marcus lingered for a moment, looking at Ryan. "You have no idea what you've done," Marcus said quietly. Ryan stood, met his eyes. "I know exactly what I've done. I helped someone get away from you." Marcus's expression didn't change. "She'll regret it, and so will you." He walked out, leaving Ryan standing there, shaking with anger. Rebecca touched his arm. "Let's go." Outside, Ryan leaned against the building, trying to steady his breathing. How bad was it? He asked. Rebecca didn't sugarcoat it. Bad. They'll use your answers to build a narrative that you were more involved than you were. That you manipulated Elena. That you're the reason the marriage failed. That's not true. Truth doesn't matter, remember? Ryan closed his eyes. What happens now? Now we wait. Marcus will use the deposition in court. Elena will have to counter it. And you, Rebecca paused, you need to prepare for things to get worse. Worse than this? Much worse. Ryan drove home in silence. When he picked up Mia from school, she asked if he was okay. Just a long day, kiddo. That night, after Mia went to bed, Ryan sat on the couch and stared at his phone. He thought about texting Elena, but what was there to say? They were both drowning, and neither of them had a lifeline. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Carter? Who is this? My name is Jordan Wells. I'm a reporter with the Tribune. I'm doing a piece on the Cross divorce, and I was hoping to get your side of the story. Ryan's stomach sank. I have nothing to say. I understand you're in a difficult position, but people are already talking. If you don't tell your side, Marcus Cross's version is the only one anyone will hear. I said, I have nothing to say. Mr. Carter, I've been looking into Marcus Cross. I think there's more to this story than what's being reported. If you're willing to talk off the record, I might be able to help. Ryan hesitated. Why would you help me? Because I don't think you're the villain here, and I think the public deserves to know the truth. Ryan thought about it, about the deposition, about Marcus's smug face, about Elena fighting alone. I'll think about it, Ryan said. Don't think too long. This story is moving fast. The line went dead. Ryan sat there, holding the phone, and wondered if talking to a reporter would save him or destroy him completely. He didn't have an answer, but he was running out of options and time. Ryan didn't call the reporter back. Not that night, not the next morning. He told himself it was the smart choice. Rebecca had warned him to stay quiet, and talking to the press would only make things messier. But the truth was simpler than that. He was scared. Scared of saying the wrong thing. Scared of making Elena's situation worse. Scared that opening his mouth would be the final mistake that destroyed what little he had left. By Thursday, his phone had stopped ringing as much. The reporters had moved on to other stories, other scandals. But the damage lingered. Ryan's name was still circulating online, still attached to words like affair and homewrecker. His administrative leave at work had become indefinite. His boss stopped returning his emails. Mia asked fewer questions now, but Ryan could see the worry in her eyes when she looked at him. She'd started drawing pictures at school, little stick figures of her and her dad holding hands, standing under a smiling sun. She'd give them to him at dinner, watching his face for a reaction. Do you like it, Daddy? I love it, kiddo. He'd tape it to the fridge, right next to the others, and try not to think about what would happen if he couldn't afford to keep this apartment, if he lost custody because he couldn't provide stability, if Marcus Cross's vendetta reached far enough to take Mia away from him. Friday afternoon, Rebecca called. We need to talk. Elena's hearing is Monday. Ryan met her at the same coffee shop. Rebecca looked worse than before, hair pulled back in a messy bun, eyes bloodshot, a coffee cup she kept refilling like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Marcus is pushing for full control of the company, Rebecca said. He's arguing that Elena's mental state makes her unfit to lead, that the affair, she said the word with disgust, proves she's unstable and unreliable. That's insane. That's strategy. If he can paint her as emotionally compromised, the board will side with him. And if he controls the company, he controls her income, her reputation, everything. Ryan leaned back. What does Elena say? She's holding it together. Barely. Rebecca rubbed her eyes. But here's the problem. We need someone to testify on her behalf. Someone who can speak to her character, her state of mind, the reality of what Marcus put her through. Ryan's chest tightened. You want me to testify? You're the only one who knows what she was going through, the only one she confided in. I'm also the guy Marcus is using to destroy her credibility. If I get on that stand, his lawyer will tear me apart. I know, but without your testimony, we're fighting with one hand tied behind our back. Rebecca met his eyes. I wouldn't ask if there was another option. Ryan thought about it, about standing in a courtroom, swearing to tell the truth, and watching Marcus's lawyer twist every word he said. About Mia, who'd already lost so much because of his choices. About Elena, who was fighting a battle she couldn't win alone. If I do this, Ryan said slowly, what happens to me? Honestly, I don't know. Marcus will come after you harder. Your name will be dragged through more mud. You might lose your job permanently. Your ex-wife might use it against you in custody court. Rebecca's voice softened. But if you don't do this, Elena loses everything, and Marcus wins. Ryan stared at his coffee. It had gone cold. When's the hearing? He asked. Monday, 10 a.m. I'll be there. Rebecca nodded. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. That weekend, Ryan tried to prepare. He went over his testimony with Rebecca, practiced answering questions without getting defensive, learned to control his breathing when he felt anger rising. But no amount of preparation made him feel ready. Sunday night, he couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through worst-case scenarios. Marcus's lawyer ripping him apart on the stand, the judge siding with Marcus. Elena losing her company, her freedom, everything she'd fought for. And Ryan left standing in the wreckage, wondering if he'd made things better or just ensured they both went down together. Around 2 a.m, his phone buzzed. Text from Elena. I heard you're testifying tomorrow. You don't have to do this. Ryan typed back. Yes, I do. Why? He thought about how to answer. There were a dozen reasons he could give, because it was the right thing, because she deserved someone in her corner, because Marcus couldn't be allowed to win. But the truth was simpler. Because no one should have to fight alone. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, thank you for everything. Ryan set his phone down and finally fell asleep. Monday morning came too fast. Ryan dropped Mia off at school, hugged her a little tighter than usual, and drove to the courthouse. Rebecca met him outside, looking as exhausted as he felt. You ready? She asked. No. Good. That means you're taking this seriously. She handed him a folder. These are the key points we need to hit. Marcus's control over Elena's finances, the surveillance, the isolation. Stick to what you know. Don't speculate. Don't get emotional. Easy for you to say. Rebecca almost smiled. You'll do fine. They walked inside together. The courtroom was smaller than Ryan expected, wood-paneled and formal. Elena sat at a table with Rebecca's co-counsel, wearing a gray suit that made her look smaller than she was. Her hair was pulled back, her face pale but composed. When she saw Ryan, something flickered in her eyes. Gratitude, maybe, or fear. Marcus sat at the opposite table, flanked by 2 lawyers who looked like they billed by the minute. He glanced at Ryan once, expression unreadable, then looked away. The judge entered and everyone stood. The hearing began. Marcus's lawyer went first, laying out their case with surgical precision. Elena had been unfaithful. She'd met secretly with Ryan Carter multiple times. She'd lied to her husband about her whereabouts. She'd filed for divorce impulsively, without regard for the damage it would cause. And now, in the midst of this emotional crisis, she was unfit to lead the company she'd built. The lawyer presented evidence, photos of Ryan and Elena at the diner, time-stamped and captioned. Phone records showing calls between them. Testimony from Marcus, calm and measured, describing how betrayed he felt. I gave her everything, Marcus said, voice steady. I invested in her dreams, supported her career, and this is how she repays me. By sneaking around with another man and destroying our marriage. Ryan's hands clenched under the table. Rebecca touched his arm, a silent reminder to stay calm. When it was their turn, Rebecca called Elena to the stand first. Elena walked up slowly, placed her hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. Rebecca started gently. Mrs. Cross, can you describe your marriage to Marcus Cross? Elena took a breath. At first it was good. He was supportive, encouraging. But over time things changed. Changed how? He started controlling everything. What I wore, who I spoke to, where I went. He said it was because he cared, because he wanted what was best for me. But it wasn't care. It was control. Can you give examples? Elena's voice wavered slightly. He monitored my phone, tracked my location. If I went somewhere without telling him, he'd call me repeatedly until I answered. He controlled our finances. Every purchase I made, he reviewed. If he didn't approve, he'd question me, make me feel guilty. Did he ever threaten you? Not physically, but he'd remind me how much I owed him, how the company wouldn't exist without his money, how people respected him more than me. He made me feel like I was nothing without him. Marcus's lawyer objected. Speculation. Mrs. Cross is ascribing intent without evidence. The judge nodded. Sustained. Stick to facts, Mrs. Cross. Elena swallowed. He told me I was nothing without him, multiple times. That's a fact. Rebecca continued. When did you first consider leaving? I don't know. It wasn't one moment. It was 1,000 small moments where I realized I couldn't breathe, where I felt like I was disappearing. Elena looked at the judge. But I was scared. He had so much power. I didn't think I could survive on my own. What changed? Elena's eyes flicked to Ryan, just for a second. I met someone who told me I could, someone who listened without judging, who made me believe I was strong enough to leave. Marcus's lawyer stood. Objection. Is Mrs. Cross referring to the man she was having an affair with? I wasn't having an affair, Elena said, voice sharpening. I was talking to someone who treated me like a human being. The judge banged his gavel. That's enough. Mrs. Cross, please answer the questions as asked. Rebecca guided Elena through more questions about Marcus's surveillance, his financial control, the fear she lived with every day. Elena answered carefully, but Ryan could see the toll it was taking. Her hands shook, her voice cracked. By the time Rebecca said, "No further questions," Elena looked like she might collapse. Marcus's lawyer stood for cross-examination. She smiled, polite and cold. Mrs. Cross, you claim your husband controlled you, but you're a CEO, a successful businesswoman. If you were truly trapped, why didn't you leave sooner? Elena hesitated. It's not that simple. Why not? You have money, resources, independence. What stopped you? Fear, and the belief that I couldn't do it alone. So you waited until you found someone else, someone to replace your husband. No, that's not... You met Ryan Carter, a single father, someone vulnerable, impressionable, and you confided in him, spent time with him, let him believe he was helping you. The lawyer leaned forward. But wasn't he really just a way out? A safety net so you wouldn't have to be alone? That's not true. Then why didn't you tell your husband about these meetings? Elena's jaw tightened. Because he would have stopped me. Because he controlled who I could talk to. Or because you knew it was inappropriate. Rebecca stood. Objection. Counsel is badgering the witness. Sustained. The judge looked at Marcus's lawyer. Move on. The lawyer smiled. No further questions. Elena stepped down, looking shaken. Rebecca whispered something to her and Elena nodded, wiping her eyes. Then Rebecca called Ryan to the stand. Ryan's legs felt unsteady as he walked up. He placed his hand on the Bible, swore the oath, and sat down. Rebecca approached. Mr. Carter, how did you meet Elena Cross? At a charity event, she asked me to step outside, said she needed to talk. What did she tell you? That she was trapped, that her husband controlled everything, that she didn't know how to leave. What did you say? I told her I understood, that I'd been in a bad relationship before, that leaving was hard but possible. Did you encourage her to have an affair? No, I encouraged her to be safe, to get help, to consider leaving if she wasn't happy. Rebecca nodded. Did you have romantic feelings for Mrs. Cross? Ryan met her eyes. No, I cared about her as a person, as someone who deserved better, but it wasn't romantic. Did Mrs. Cross ever express romantic feelings for you? No. Then why did you keep meeting with her? Ryan thought about how to answer. Because she had no one else. Because everyone around her either worked for her husband or was afraid of him. I was the only person she could talk to without consequences. Rebecca stepped back. No further questions. Marcus's lawyer stood and Ryan's stomach sank. She walked toward him slowly, deliberately. Mr. Carter, you testified that you have a daughter. Is that correct? Yes. How old? 6. And you're a single father. That must be difficult. Ryan frowned. What does that have to do with... Just answer the question, Mr. Carter. Yes, it's difficult. You work full-time, take care of your daughter alone, manage your household. That's a lot of responsibility. I manage. But it must get lonely, being a single parent, having no one to share the burden with. Ryan saw where this was going. I'm fine. Are you? Because it seems to me that when a beautiful, successful woman came to you asking for help, you saw an opportunity. That's not an opportunity to be needed, to feel important, to insert yourself into someone else's life because your own felt lacking. Ryan's jaw tightened. That's not what happened. Then what did happen, Mr. Carter? A married woman confides in you, meets with you repeatedly, tells you things she doesn't tell her husband, and you expect us to believe there was nothing more to it? There wasn't. You never imagined a future with her? No. You never thought about what it would be like if she left her husband and chose you instead? No. The lawyer stepped closer. Mr. Carter, you're under oath. Did you at any point develop feelings for Elena Cross? Ryan hesitated. This was the trap. If he said no, he'd sound like a liar. If he said yes, it would confirm everything Marcus was claiming. I cared about her, Ryan said carefully, the way anyone would care about someone in danger. But it wasn't romantic. It wasn't an affair. But you wanted it to be. No. You wanted to be her hero, her savior, the man who rescued her from her terrible husband. I wanted her to be safe, that's all. The lawyer smiled. No further questions. Ryan stepped down, feeling like he'd just been gutted. Rebecca gave him a small nod, but he couldn't tell if he'd helped or made things worse. The hearing continued for another hour. More testimony, more evidence. Marcus's lawyer painted Elena as unstable and Ryan as a manipulative opportunist. Rebecca countered with documentation of Marcus's control, bank statements showing monitored withdrawals, emails where Marcus dictated Elena's schedule, testimony from a former employee who'd seen Marcus berate Elena in front of the staff. But it wasn't enough. Ryan could see it in the judge's face, the skepticism, the doubt. When the hearing finally ended, the judge said he'd issue a ruling within a week. Outside the courthouse, Ryan found Elena standing alone on the steps. She looked hollow. How bad? Ryan asked. Bad. Elena's voice was flat. His lawyer made me sound like a cheater and a liar. Made you sound like an opportunist. And the evidence we had, she trailed off. It wasn't enough. Rebecca did her best. I know, but Marcus is better at this. He's been preparing for this fight his whole life. I've only been preparing for a few weeks. Ryan didn't know what to say. He wanted to tell her it would be okay, that they'd win, that justice would prevail. But he didn't believe it. What happens now? He asked. We wait. The judge decides if Marcus gets control of the company. If he does, Elena's voice broke. If he does, I lose everything. Ryan reached out, then stopped himself. Rebecca's warning echoed in his head. Anything that looks romantic will be used against her. You'll get through this, Ryan said instead. One way or another. Elena looked at him, eyes red. Will I? Ryan didn't have an answer. They stood there in silence, two people who'd tried to do the right thing and ended up drowning together. Finally, Elena said, I should go. Rebecca wants to debrief. Elena, thank you for testifying, for telling the truth, even if it doesn't change anything. She walked away before Ryan could respond. Ryan drove home in a haze. His phone was full of missed calls, reporters who'd heard about the hearing, coworkers who wanted to know what happened, numbers he didn't recognize. He ignored all of them. When he picked up Mia from school, she asked if he was okay. He lied and said yes. They went home, ate dinner, watched a movie. Mia fell asleep on the couch, and Ryan carried her to bed. Then he sat in the dark living room, staring at his phone, and waited for everything to fall apart. The call came 3 days later. Rebecca, her voice tight. The judge ruled. Marcus gets temporary control of the company pending the final divorce settlement. Ryan's stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means Elena is locked out. No access to company funds, no decision-making power, nothing. Marcus basically owns everything she built. Can we appeal? We will. But it'll take time. And in the meantime, Elena has no income, no resources, and a legal battle she can't afford to fight. Ryan closed his eyes. This is my fault. It's not. Marcus would have destroyed her with or without you. You just gave him an excuse to do it faster. That doesn't help. Rebecca sighed. There's one more thing. Marcus filed a civil suit against you. Ryan's blood went cold. For what? Alienation of affection. He's claiming you deliberately interfered with his marriage and caused emotional and financial harm. He's asking for $500,000 in damages. Ryan couldn't breathe. $500,000. He didn't have $1,000. He couldn't afford a lawyer, couldn't afford to fight this. What do I do? Ryan asked. You fight, or you settle. But either way, this just became your problem too. Rebecca hung up and Ryan sat there holding the phone, feeling the walls close in. His phone buzzed. Text from Elena. I'm so sorry. Ryan stared at the screen. He wanted to be angry, wanted to blame her for dragging him into this. But he couldn't, because he'd made the choice. He'd known the risks. He typed back, we'll figure it out. But as he sat there in the dark, he wasn't sure he believed it anymore. The next morning, Ryan woke up to a voicemail from his landlord. Rent was overdue. If he didn't pay by the end of the week, eviction proceedings would start. Ryan checked his bank account. He had enough to cover rent or groceries, not both. He sat at the kitchen table, head in his hands, and tried not to panic. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Mr. Carter? Who is this? Jordan Wells, the reporter. We spoke a few weeks ago. Ryan's jaw tightened. I told you I had nothing to say. I know, but I've been digging into Marcus Cross, and I think I found something. Something that could change everything. Ryan hesitated. What kind of something? The kind that proves he's not the victim he's pretending to be. But I need your help to verify it. Ryan thought about Rebecca's warning, about the lawsuit, about everything he had left to lose. Why should I trust you? Ryan asked. Because you're out of options, and I might be the only person left who actually wants to help. Ryan closed his eyes. He thought about Elena, locked out of her own company, about Mia, who deserved better than a father drowning in debt, about himself standing at the edge of a cliff with nowhere left to go. What do you need? Ryan asked, and just like that, he stepped off the edge. Jordan Wells met Ryan at a diner 2 towns over, the kind of place where nobody asked questions, and the coffee tasted like it had been sitting since morning. Ryan arrived first, sitting in a corner booth where he could see the door. He was jumpy now, always looking over his shoulder, always waiting for the next piece of bad news to land. Jordan walked in 10 minutes later, mid-30s, rumpled jacket, carrying a messenger bag that looked like it had seen better days. He slid into the booth across from Ryan and pulled out a laptop without bothering with small talk. I'm going to show you something, Jordan said, opening a folder on his screen. But first, I need to know you're willing to go on record. No anonymous sources. Your name attached to this story. Ryan's stomach twisted. If I do that, Marcus will come after me even harder. He's already coming after you. $500,000 lawsuit, right? Jordan didn't wait for confirmation. The way I see it, you've got 2 choices. Stay quiet, let Marcus bury you, and hope you survive with something left. Or you fight back. Tell the truth. Let people see who he really is. And if it doesn't work, then at least you went down swinging. Ryan thought about Mia, about rent he couldn't pay, about a future that looked darker every day. He thought about Elena, locked out of her own life, fighting a battle she was losing. Show me what you've got, Ryan said. Jordan turned the laptop around. On the screen was a scanned document, an email chain between Marcus Cross and someone named David Keller, dated 3 years ago. Ryan skimmed the messages, trying to make sense of the corporate jargon and financial terms. What am I looking at? Ryan asked. Fraud, Jordan said simply. Marcus was embezzling from Elena's company. Small amounts at first, routed through shell corporations he controlled. Over time, it added up to millions. Ryan looked up. How did you find this? A source. Someone who used to work in Marcus's finance department. He came to me 6 months ago, said he'd been sitting on these documents because he was afraid of what Marcus would do if he went public. But when he saw the divorce coverage, saw Marcus playing victim, he decided it was time. Why not go to the police? He did. They said it wasn't enough. The money was technically moved through legal channels. Unless someone could prove intent, it was just bad business decisions. Jordan leaned forward. But if you and Elena testify, if you put this in the context of Marcus's control over her, his manipulation of the company, it becomes a pattern. And patterns are what prosecutors love. Ryan's mind raced. Does Elena know about this? Not yet. I wanted to verify it with you first. Verify what? I'm not an accountant. I don't know anything about corporate fraud. But you know about Marcus. You saw how he controlled Elena, how he monitored everything she did. If you testify that he had complete access to the company's finances, that Elena didn't make decisions without his approval, it supports the theory that he was stealing from her all along. Ryan sat back trying to process this. It made sense. If Marcus controlled Elena completely, he'd have been able to move money without her noticing. And if he'd been stealing from the company, that would explain why he fought so hard to keep control. He wasn't just protecting his reputation, he was covering his tracks. "What do you need from me?" Ryan asked. "An interview? On camera? Tell your story? How you met Elena? What she told you about Marcus? How he controlled her finances, her decisions? Everything. Then I'll run the story, your testimony alongside the financial documents. The public sees the fraud. Elena's lawyers use it in court. And Marcus..." Jordan smiled grimly. "Marcus loses." Ryan thought about it, about standing in front of a camera, putting his face to this story, making himself an even bigger target. But he also thought about Elena, who'd already lost so much, and about himself, who had nothing left to lose. "When?" Ryan asked. "Tomorrow, if you're ready." Ryan wasn't ready, but he nodded anyway. That night, Ryan sat down with Mia after dinner. She was coloring at the kitchen table, humming some songs she'd learned at school. He watched her for a moment, memorizing the way her tongue stuck out when she concentrated, the way her hair fell across her face. "Mia, can we talk for a minute?" She looked up. "Am I in trouble?" "No, sweetheart. You're perfect. I just need to tell you something." Mia set down her crayon, suddenly serious in the way only 6-year-olds could be. Ryan took a breath. "You know how Daddy's been having a hard time at work?" "Yeah." "Well, it's because I've been helping someone, a friend who needed me, and some people are mad about it. They're saying things that aren't true, and it's made life really complicated." Mia frowned. "Why are they mad if you were helping?" "Because helping isn't always easy. Sometimes it makes other people upset. Sometimes it costs you things." "Like what?" Ryan hesitated. "Like my job. And maybe this apartment. We might have to move soon." Mia's eyes widened. "Where will we go?" "I don't know yet, but wherever it is, we'll be together. That's what matters." Mia was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she said, "Is your friend okay?" Ryan's throat tightened. "She's fighting, just like us." "Then you should keep helping her, even if people are mean." "Why?" "Because that's what heroes do. They help people even when it's hard." Ryan pulled Mia into a hug, holding her tight. She didn't understand the full picture, the lawsuit, the eviction notice, the way his life was unraveling. But she understood the part that mattered. Helping people was worth it, even when it cost you everything. "I love you, kiddo," Ryan whispered. "I love you too, Daddy." The next day, Ryan met Jordan at a small studio across town. There was a camera set up, a chair positioned in front of a plain backdrop, lights that made the room feel too bright. Jordan handed Ryan a microphone. "Just tell the truth. Start from the beginning. How you met Elena, what she told you, what you saw." Ryan sat down, feeling the weight of the camera's eye on him. He thought about Marcus, who would see this, about Elena, who was counting on him, about Mia, who thought her dad was a hero. "My name is Ryan Carter," he began, "and I want to tell you about Elena Cross." He talked for 30 minutes, about the gala, about the fear in Elena's eyes, about the meetings in coffee shops and parks where she'd told him things she couldn't tell anyone else, about Marcus's surveillance, his financial control, the way he'd made her feel like she was nothing without him. Ryan didn't hold back. He talked about his own doubts, his fear of getting involved, the nights he'd lain awake wondering if he was doing the right thing. He talked about the deposition, the hearing, the way Marcus had twisted everything into a weapon. And then he talked about the documents Jordan had shown him, the fraud, the embezzlement, the pattern of control that went beyond a marriage and into criminal territory. "Marcus Cross isn't a victim," Ryan said, looking directly at the camera. "He's a man who spent years building a prison around his wife, stealing from her company, and manipulating everyone around him. And when she finally tried to escape, he did what abusers always do. He blamed her, made her look like the villain, tried to destroy her before she could expose him." Jordan stopped recording. "That was good. Really good." Ryan felt drained. What happens now? I write the story. It goes live tomorrow morning. Then we see what happens. Ryan drove home, his hands shaking on the steering wheel. He just made himself the biggest target in Marcus Cross's sights. There was no going back now. That night he barely slept. He kept checking his phone, waiting for something, threats, messages, anything. But there was nothing, just silence. The story went live at 6 a.m. Ryan saw it on his phone before he even got out of bed. The headline read, "The Real Victim. Inside Elena Cross's Fight Against a Controlling Husband." Below it was Ryan's interview, alongside the financial documents Jordan had obtained. The article laid out everything: the surveillance, the embezzlement, the systematic destruction of Elena's autonomy. It included quotes from the former employee, testimony from the court hearing, and Ryan's first-hand account. By 7 a.m., the story was trending. By 8, other news outlets were picking it up. By 9, Ryan's phone was exploding with messages. Rebecca called first. "Have you seen the news?" "Yeah." "This changes everything. I'm filing an emergency motion to freeze Marcus's assets and reopen the hearing. If the judge sees this, he'll have to reconsider." "What about Elena?" "She's safe, staying with a friend. But Ryan, you need to be careful. Marcus is going to retaliate." Ryan thought about this $500,000 lawsuit, the eviction notice, the life he was already losing. Let him. The retaliation came faster than Rebecca expected. By noon, Marcus's lawyers issued a statement calling the story defamatory and unsubstantiated. They threatened to sue Jordan, the Tribune, and Ryan for damages. But the public wasn't buying it. Social media erupted with support for Elena. People who'd worked with Marcus came forward, sharing their own stories of his manipulation and control. Employees from Elena's company spoke anonymously about how Marcus had ruled through fear. And then, 3 days after the story broke, the district attorney announced an investigation into Marcus Cross's financial dealings. Ryan was at home when Rebecca called with the news. They're opening a criminal case. Fraud, embezzlement, everything. If they find enough evidence, Marcus could face charges. Ryan exhaled, feeling something loosen in his chest. What does that mean for Elena? It means she has leverage. If Marcus is facing criminal charges, he'll want to settle the divorce quickly, get it over with before the trial. She'll get her company back, her freedom, everything. And me? Rebecca paused. The civil suit might go away. Marcus won't want to draw more attention to himself. But I can't promise anything. Ryan didn't care about promises. He cared that Elena was going to be okay. The settlement came 2 weeks later. Marcus agreed to relinquish control of Elena's company, drop the civil suit against Ryan, and accept a divorce with no financial claims. In exchange, Elena agreed not to pursue charges for the emotional abuse. It wasn't perfect. Marcus walked away with his reputation damaged but not destroyed. The criminal investigation was still ongoing, but prosecutors warned it could take years. But Elena was free, and that was enough. Ryan didn't see her until a month after the settlement. She called him one evening, asked if they could meet. He agreed, and they met at the same park where they'd talked so many times before. Elena looked different, still tired, still carrying the weight of everything she'd been through. But there was something else now, a steadiness that hadn't been there before. "I wanted to thank you," Elena said, "for everything, for believing me, for standing by me when no one else did." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. You risked everything, your job, your home, your daughter's stability, and you did it for someone you barely knew." Ryan shrugged. Seemed like the right thing to do. Elena smiled, but her eyes were sad. "I heard you're still looking for work." "Yeah, turns out being the guy in a scandal doesn't make you very employable. I'm rebuilding my team, hiring people I trust, people who stood by me." She paused. "I'd like you to consider working for me. A consulting position. Good pay, flexible hours. Enough to get back on your feet." Ryan stared at her. "Elena, I'm not a tech guy. I don't know anything about your industry. I don't need a tech guy. I need someone who tells the truth, someone I can trust, someone who won't try to control me." She met his eyes. "I need someone like you." Ryan thought about it. About Mia, who deserves stability. About rent he couldn't pay. About a future that was still uncertain. "Okay," he said. "I'll think about it. That's all I ask." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the sun set over the city. "What are you going to do now?"